Hi there, your computer friend Connie here. Thank you for joining us for a 10-part series entitled 10 Apps, Tools, and Tips to Help You Work Remotely. This is 10 separate days of training and tips for you. This is day number 1, and before we get into our topic today, I want to let you know of 2 other ways that you can get some free training and tips from me, and that's by joining me on my Facebook page, Mission Computers, and we're doing lives, Facebook Lives almost every day with some kind of lesson, and most of those lessons are centered around working remotely. We also have a group called Just a Click Away, and we'd love to have you join us there. There's all kinds of tips and shortcuts and other things revolving around tech that we've been sharing for quite some time now that you could actually go through and then be a part of all the new stuff that's added. So today's topic is Zoom meetings. Zoom is one of the more popular remote meeting applications out there, and that's why I'm talking about this one. And I'm going to start by just giving you some pointers, and then I'm going to give you a tour of the application, and then we'll talk about some tips at the very end. So please stick around for the whole presentation here. So let's talk about some pointers for success. Before you start, or when you're starting your Zoom meeting, be sure to lay out the process at the beginning, and that might mean that you're telling your participants, hey guys, once we get everybody on here, as we start our meeting, I'm going to mute everyone, just so that we don't have a lot of interference in the background. And then you might have some other ground rules, like if you have a question, please put it in the chat, or you might tell people to unmute themselves if you want them to chat with you. It's your call what makes sense for the group that you're working with, but I would not recommend having everybody's speaker on throughout the whole meeting. That gets very disruptive, and there's a lot of interference coming through. And the other thing maybe to point out to people and for you to know, especially as a participant or host, is that when your camera is on, that means we can see you. Sounds like an obvious thing to say, but I've been part of a few meetings lately, and people are kind of doing all kinds of stuff in their office while they're on that meeting, and we can see what you're doing. So it's a bit distracting. If you're there, give the meeting host and give that meeting your full attention. Be a part of it, be active. And another option is just to have no cameras on, which might make sense in some meeting areas. But sometimes it's nice to see everybody else's face. So your call there, but just keep in mind what you're doing while you're in that meeting. Now, another thing that's happening, a new word that's going, or a phrase that's coming around nowadays, is because of everybody being in these remote meetings, of course, the hackers are having a field day, and they're figuring out a way to jump in as well. So we have something called Zoom bombing, where people are coming into our meetings that aren't invited. So some tips for avoiding the Zoom bombings: don't use the personal meeting ID, have a waiting room in use, and require a password. All right, so we're going to go into the Zoom application right away here so I can show you around a bit. And just one of the very first things I'm going to mention to you about a Zoom meeting is at the very top left-hand corner of your screen is where the meeting ID will be. So if someone is having trouble getting into the Zoom meeting, maybe from the link that you sent them, you can always have them go to the website called Zoom US, and from that website they can type in this number that you give them so they can join that meeting. Another thing that I find people struggle with in a Zoom meeting is they can't find their control bar. And we'll talk about why they can't find that in a minute. But the control bar is this one. It's where you should see your microphone and your video and the sharing option and more stuff. And that's where you have the end meeting. So that control bar could be floating on your screen once a meeting starts, or it could be part of a window. So I'll demonstrate that in my demonstration here right away. So I'm going to start by showing you, actually I want to show you, if you can see the bottom of my screen here, you're going to notice that I have 3 little windows available for Zoom. Okay, and as I hover on it, it shows me those windows. So the first one, is a window that I'm in, which is the Zoom account. The second one is actually the active meeting window, and that's where that control bar is. So let me just go to that second one for a second. So this is where that control bar is. Okay. And then the third one is reserved for whatever I might share on my screen. So when someone's saying, I can't find what you're talking about, they might be in the wrong window. So they might be in that third window where there is no control bar. So maybe that window is maximized on their screen. They don't see any control bar. So you need to remind them, go to your taskbar at the bottom here and hover on that and look for another window that has that toolbar at the bottom. All right. So I'm actually going to go to the first one, opening screen for Zoom. So this is the opening screen when I start Zoom. And on this screen, way over on the right side at the top, it actually shows that I'm in a meeting because I want to show you what it looks like while we're live in a meeting. At the very top, I have my picture here because you can certainly add your picture, but you might have your initials. That's where your profile or settings is. I want you to click on that. And then I'm going to go into settings. And so we're going to see how we can change some stuff. So when I go into settings, there's a lot of general settings and it's great to have a look around here and see what's involved. Be careful when you click on stuff that you remember what you click on in case things don't work later. But what I want to show you right now is really in terms of having the best meeting possible and making sure you don't get Zoom bombed. So I'm going to go into the advanced features. So view advanced features at the bottom here. So I'm in the general settings area, view advanced features. And I'm going to click on that. And by the way, most of the features that I'm going to show you and most of the screens that I'm showing you will look the same regardless of whether you have the paid version of Zoom or you have the actual free version. It's definitely some settings you don't get if you have the free version, but you get a lot of choices. So the things that I'm showing you here, you should have. With the free version, your biggest thing that you don't get is or the biggest limitation you have is you only get 40-minute meetings, right? And with the paid version, you of course have unlimited time. Okay, so let's start with, I'm in the advanced settings, by the way, and it took me right to the website. So this is the website for Zoom, for my account. And what I want to go to first is in the meeting area. So on the very left side, notice I'm on settings here. And then I'm in meetings over here. And I'm going to start with meeting basics. Actually, sorry, I'm going to start with schedule meeting. That's where I want to start. That's what I was on. Okay, and so what happens here is I want to let you see your options here that you want to make sure it's turned off. So join before host. I'd suggest turning that off because, and I think by default it is turned off, but that is one where if you don't want a Zoom bomber, that you want to avoid that. Don't let somebody join before you're there because that could be the person you don't want, right? All right, so we're in the schedule meeting area, and I want you to scroll down a little bit till it says require password for scheduled new meetings and instant meetings, and make sure those things are turned on. So right now mine are turned on, and that's why that's blue and not gray. So that's your first thing you want to check out and make sure that that's happening for you. The next thing is under meeting basics. I want you to go to probably towards the bottom here. You're looking for screen sharing. So this is your option, what makes sense for you here. But screen sharing is where you're letting somebody else share their screen with you. Now you, of course, as the host can control this, but this is where it's giving you an option, first of all, to do it. So that for me and what I do, I'm teaching people all the time and having them show me their screens. So I do need that to be turned on. But if you're having meetings with people and there's no need for them to ever share their screen, then just turn that off or have it so that the host only can share their screen. Okay. And then we're going to go to another one under Meeting Advanced. And under Meeting Advanced, this is where you want to make sure you have that waiting room enabled. So waiting room. Now, the cool thing here is if you're in an organization and you have an organizational account for Zoom, so there's a number of people in your organization using the Zoom account, then you can change it to guest participants only. And so if I just hover here, you can read it. Guest participants is anybody outside your organization. So for me, that pretty much is everybody. So that's why I have all participants, but you might choose this one. But if you want to be safe, you might want to say everybody just in case somebody hacks in, even internally that way. Okay. So there's lots to do within Zoom. I mean, I can go on for probably another half an hour or maybe longer with all the settings and all the special things to keep in mind when doing a remote meeting. But this was meant to be a quick tip for you. I want to thank you for joining me today. Day 1 of 10 days is complete. Please join us tomorrow as we will have another topic in mind to share with you so that you can work remotely successfully. Thanks and have a good day. Bye.